We're talking.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Okay, Amanda, we're so fun. Happy Friday, everyone. Today is March 8th, 2024, and it is a big day tomorrow, Amanda, isn't it?
Oh my goodness. I know even in my household, there's a lot going on. Yeah.
I am going to be interested to see how many test takers are actually taking the test tomorrow and how it goes. I'm very interested in this, but
Absolutely. Well, even I was talking with my own daughter and I said, okay, well, make sure your computer's all charged. And she's like, what? I got to take my computer. So you definitely want to make sure that you have everything with you. You still bring a calculator with you, that you still, your computer is charged. You have downloaded the blue book and everything and checked all of your requirements. Really important. But like you said, the PSAT didn't roll out as great as I think College Board would have liked. So it will be really interesting. This is the first full huge day of national testing across the United States. So we will see how it goes for everybody.
It is so exciting. So again, just a few other tips and tricks. Making sure that you guys get a lot of rest tonight, making sure you get a good breakfast, making sure that you're on time to just kind of helps out with any test anxiety or stress before going in and taking that test. So anyways, make sure that you get yourself some downtime tonight and get a good night's rest.
Take some water, take a snack. And if you're not testing at your school, and I have been guilty of this, my daughter took a test and I took her to the wrong school. One, the names were very similar, Island Coast versus Ida. Anyway, we ended up at the wrong school. Unfortunately, they weren't super far away and we were able to get to the other one. So check your ticket, make sure you have your license with you, or a ID of some sort, but you really just want to make sure that you're not rushed and you have everything
exactly
ready to go. So
that feeling is awful.
And definitely let us know how your scores and everything went. We've had a lot of people in our advantage classes and power classes and also our one-on-one test prep. And I know a lot of families kind of usually the second phase after taking a class or doing, prepping on your own is to then looking at a tutor and kind of saying like, how can I dive into this and really make sure that you get those top scores. So both Jessica and I can walk you through that process. So feel free to reach out to us if you do have any questions just about test scores. And, we had the webinar the other week about our schools really test optional. So I know we've been meeting with a lot of families just kind of discussing about where are you at, where do you need to be, but then how are those schools sort of looking at those scores. So again, we're always happy to have those conversations with all of you.
Exactly. Yeah. Such a big part of the puzzle and putting all the pieces together is that test score. So really excited to see how this all comes together. And talking kind of another piece of the puzzle, we had a webinar yesterday we held on college visits and what to do and what questions to ask for on college visits, as this is high time for college visits for a lot of the juniors right now. Spring is typically a time when colleges have preview days and fly-ins and open houses and different events to kind of let you come on campus and take a tour and really kind of get to know their college and their community. So we thought that today we would go through a few highlights and the most important takeaways from that webinar that we held yesterday.
Yeah, and we're going to put the link below. So you definitely want to check out the webinar because we're just giving you a small snippet of sort of kind of important things for you to consider as you go on a college tour or college visit. And so you definitely want to see the whole thing because it provides the entire context and it's a really great webinar. We had hundreds of people showed up and chatted with us, and it was a lot of fun. So you definitely want to check that out.
Lots of great information, especially if this is the first time you're going through the process. Just like anything, the more information that you can gather going into the process will help you be that much more successful next year if you're a junior, when you're having to make decisions and what colleges to apply to, what are you looking for in a college and a campus and a program. And that really all starts at the college tour. So,
but as we kind of mentioned yesterday, is families really need to be prepared to go into that conversation, because what I find, a lot of families kind of expect the tour or the visit to sort of quench their thirst, right? To tell them all the information and be this big fountain of knowledge that they're just going to know everything and anything. But when you don't do your research sort of ahead of time going into it, you don't know what specific questions to ask, especially pertaining to your student. And so we do really suggest that even if you're going on a college visit, that is not sort of all the information. You should be doing a lot of research before you go. So when you go, it's going to be, you're going to be able to get some of that information that you actually need to make a good informed decision.
Exactly. Because we were saying the analogy of like at the end of an interview, do you have any questions? And typically, if you're not prepared with a question, you say, no, I don't have any questions. So this is a great time to ask those specific questions. And we had another webinar. It brings me to another webinar we held on Tuesday night about navigating accommodations in college. And so that's a great topic. If your student has any accommodations, and how do they transition over to college, and what student support services are in place, and what is that process like at that university? Because Amanda, I know we've talked about, and I think we talked about it yesterday on the webinar, that every school is a little different in how they approach that. And so understanding that process at every school is critical, and a lot of different aspects too. So having those questions handy is really, it just helps you have a better idea and understanding of that university.
Yeah.
So,
and I'll go back on this slide here. We do have a really good college visit checklist. And so you definitely want to look at that, download that, because I will give you some of those specific questions to ask that pertain to your students. Again, we do talk more about that within the webinar, but really kind of giving you some of those, hey, here's some little bit deeper questions to ask that might be more specific to your family, like accommodations, or if I'm not good at math, how do I get help in math in my statistics class that I have to take, or advising or mental health services. So definitely you'll want to download that college visit checklist. But I know what we wanted to sort of mention today is sort of some of the things that a lot of families don't know going into the process. And sort of like once you go and you have the college visit checklist, you have some questions, kind of some things to really consider that we think is really helpful as moms. I mean, we are both moms, and and even as dads, we want to protect our students and really think about if my child son or daughter is to go to this college, really about the different the safety on campus and off campus in the local area. And I give the example that where I did my master's degree, beautiful campus, really great school, but it was in a downtown area. And I was a graduate school student, so I could just drive in. I went to class and I drove home. Now, if I was an 18-year-old female and I wanted to do my running route, I would probably feel very differently, because it was not a great area and I would not have felt probably safe in that. So even though it was an amazing university, so knowing what are my resources, how are they going to keep my child safe? And unfortunately, we have some issues where natural disasters. We were talking on the webinar. I'm from Florida. I've said that, and we had Hurricane Ian. So I want to know, if something were to happen, or heaven forbid there's a shooting or something, how is my student going to be notified, protected? What's that process look like? And I think that doesn't a lot of families don't go through that process and really understand what that looks like.
exactly. Right. And it is such a critical aspect, campus safety and emergency situations. What does the protocol look like? How does my student know what to do? Like, how is she or he going to be notified of something? And so that brings us really to our next slide that we wanted to show you guys, of where you can find a lot of this information about campus safety, and what the culture is like there. How safe is it? And I know that this information would definitely impact my decision as a parent, if I knew some of this going in. And unfortunately, some of this data probably won't be given on a college tour, right? This is the digging that you might need to do a little bit on your own before sending your child somewhere for 4 years. So, again, keeping in mind that when you are on the college tours, of course, they're going to show you the shiny new dorms and the best dining hall and all the fantastic things that they have to offer. But there's also some other aspects too that you would probably want to take a close look at, in order to make a very informed decision about where to go for the next 4 years.
So here's an example of sort of some data points that you can research as a family, and we highly suggest you do so prior to the college visit, again, because when you're on the visit, you can ask some of these questions. Now, as we know, a lot of times on the visits, it's a student that's presenting, so they might not know, but it is definitely something that you can check into. So there is a thing called the Clery Act. It's a federal law that basically, unfortunately, a girl was raped and murdered in her dormitory. And so that put forth the Clery Act, which is basically that colleges have to report any sort of incidents on campus. And you can see there's a whole list of different opportunities. So there's manslaughter, there's rape, and these are hard things to talk about. But again, when we think about our student going away and sort of the safety is going to be really paramount to a lot of different things. And so I just looked up 2 different universities. So what I did is I went to 2 different universities. I went to their website and I typed in the Clery annual report. And again, federally, they need to have this reported. I will say there was a 3rd college that I did look up and their link was not active. And so very quickly I emailed them and said, as you know, this needs to be posted. And they were within minutes, got it back to me, and the link was now working. So, it's a big report. I mean, there's like 100 pages, but they very specifically ask, these. So how many incidences were reported? And this is reported, right? So there could be, and there was a big, fine levied by, it was Liberty University that was not reporting. And I think they just had to pay a fine of something like $34 million. It was quite a bit because they were not reporting. But there's also times when some cultures kind of keep things quiet, right? And they don't report. So, we really want to make sure that it gets reported. So this has Boston University. And on the other side, I was really surprised by, was the University of Michigan. Now, different size campuses, very different in terms of location, urban, a little more suburban, rural. But if you look, I was, kind of in my mind as a parent, I'm like, oh, Boston University or downtown Boston. But when you look, in terms of rape, and they do it for the last 3 years, they had in 2022, they had 9 rapes. You can see aggravated assaults, burglary, and so forth. I was really surprised looking at University of Michigan's. They had in 2022, they had 145 sexual assaults, 211 thefts from building. They have incidences of sexual harassment and stalking. Now, again, that doesn't mean that it's campus wide, but if I was going to be visiting, say, the University of Michigan or even Boston, I would want to know as a parent, what are you doing to address that there was 145 sexual assaults? Because as we know, 1 is too many, right? So what do you do to address? Where's campus safety at? Can you get a ride share home in the evening time? How protected are your dormitory? Access in and out, things like that. I would really want to know about that and ask more detailed questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this is, like you said, an area that is typically overlooked until unfortunately something happens. And so having that information beforehand and asking some very pointed questions about that. I know that when you were on a college tour and you asked about natural disasters, all of a sudden everyone else on your tour started chiming in and saying, yeah, that's a really good question. We have that question too. So, but again, it's a great conversation to bring up on any college tour. So something to just kind of take note of as you guys are getting out there and doing some college visits, probably this spring. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's again, the tour guide. I know when we visited one college, she was from the area and had actually was going to the university, and asking questions about kind of the culture and the safety, and so just going a little bit deeper and looking into this, I think is really valuable. So as we were talking about what to maybe talk about, I don't think, again, this is an area that a lot of families kind of dive into. It's not a fun topic by any means, but you need to be informed and ask these questions. And so that's why we wanted to share it with you today. So again, just go to the website of the college that you're interested in, type in Cleary. If you just type in Cleary, it should pop up really quickly. And then look for the report. And then I had to use because it was so long, it'll tell you like the statistics. And that's where you're going to get this graph, because they tell you a lot. And so find the right page and kind of look at the numbers and look through that.
Exactly. Yeah. Great information as always. And this Tuesday is our very last College Connect series. We're doing a presentation with our director here for scholarships and financial aid. Sarita will be on with us talking about just that, financial aid and scholarships and how to make college affordable. So don't want to miss that. That is coming up Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we can also put a link here below to get you to register for that event as well. So a lot going on, as always.
A lot going on. I know for you guys as families, a lot going on as well. So we are trying to get you that information always ahead of time. And so as you go through this process, making it a lot simpler for you all. So thank you. Have a happy Friday, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye, guys.